So here we are with a book haul for July of 2024. And you know, I'm a little bit wary about doing book hauls, not because I don't think that they make for some compelling content, but I don't want this to be a please send me books so I have a video to make for you guys. You know, Mike has done a really great job over on Mike's Book Reviews about using the book haul, content for really as a means of thanking his viewers and the people that send him material to read. I'm going to try to do the same thing here on the months that it makes sense to do that. For example, this month, virtually every book that I'm going to show you here in this book haul, I did for myself, with the exception of one person who went way above and beyond, and we're going to get to those books last. So let's just get right started with it. And the first book that I hauled this month is Dune Messiah. I haven't read it yet, but it does go with the edition of Dune that you can probably see on the shelves behind me. Yeah, I'm still new to Dune Messiah, and I love the blue edges. They're going to look really cool. Obviously, this looks like a super short book, so I don't think this will take me very long to read. I don't have a specific date in mind when I'm going to get to it, but I saw it. I had to grab it. It looked really cool. Let's move on to the next book. I don't even know where to put these things, by the way. I don't want to drop them on the floor. Let's go with this one. Okay, so we are doing a thing called the Quilluminati. If you've not heard of it before, it is me, the aforementioned Mike from Mike's Book Reviews, Philip Chase, Dr. Philip Chase from Philip Chase's The Best of Fantasy. You know, I managed to say the words Philip Chase I think 3 or 4 times in the same sentence. I think I should win something for that. And of course, my brother from another mother, John Minton, down at Talking Story. We make up the Quilluminati. This is a quarterly book club. And for this quarter, this was a pick by Mike, and it is Ordinary Grace by William Kent Kruger. Now, this is a book I've not read before. I know it's set here in Minnesota, which is kind of cool. It was set before I was born, so that I don't know if that makes this historical fiction. It's the 1800s. No, this is just like set maybe, I don't know, a decade before I was born. Anyway, I grabbed Ordinary Grace. I don't know if I'm going to read it in August or if I'm going to read it in September when we get together for the Quilluminati, but it's here and ready for me whenever I am ready for it. All right, let's move on. The next book that I hauled in is something that I actually got last month, but I forgot to put it in the book haul, and that is a book called The Torn Veil, I believe by J.R. Rains. Now, this is a Spiffbo book. If you've not heard of Spiffbo, this is the self-published fantasy blog-off competition where 300 authors get to submit an entry into this. They get pulled by total random lottery, and then they go through a series of judgings and different teams, and they work their way up, and hopefully the cream rises to the crop, and all of a sudden we get a winner. All of a sudden we get a winner in about a year, so there's nothing all of a sudden about it. But I was given an extra book to read, and that is The Torn Veil. I will be reading this probably, I don't know, September. I think it's probably not going to make the TBR for August, just because I've already set that up, and I did a video last week. I'll put a card up here if you want to see what's on the TBR for August. That'll all be there for you. The next book that I got is, I'm looking over at my notes here. Oh, the next book that I got was because of you guys. So I blame you for this amazing experience. If you've not yet subscribed to the channel, here's a really good reason why. We do a community poll in the community tab here on YouTube, and it basically allows you to vote for one book per month that adds into my TBR. And the community this last month picked for me. They picked it at the end of June, and this is Never Die by Rob J. Hayes. Since I didn't own the book, I had to pick it up in the month of July. I read it. We're going to do a recap later on this week about everything I read in July, so you'll want to stay tuned for that. But I'll give you a little secret hint. I really did like Never Die a ton. It is a really good book. And for me, that book was really great timing, and I'll explain why more when we do the July recap. But so yeah, another book called Never Die by Rob J. Hayes. This is entirely because of you guys. If you would like your opportunity to vote in our free community tab, you can absolutely do it once you hit the subscribe button. For those of you, by the way, that want to, help out the channel just a little bit more than that, we do have a Patreon. It is a pretty intimate one. The best part about it it's really inexpensive. It's literally less than $2 a month. If you feel like the content here is something that you want to support, it's another great way to do it. I'll put the patrons up here somewhere. I don't know. I don't have a cool sound effect yet, but maybe I'll work on that between now and the time I go edit. Let's talk about some more books. Now, this was a book that I hauled in for the month of July that I never thought I would read in a million years. And when we get to the one for the road today, we're going to talk about it a little bit. But this is All the Horses of Iceland by Sarah Tolmie. Now, my friend Evie from She Was Only Evie, it's a booktube channel, I'll link it in the description. She suggested this book to me. It's kind of like this magical realism, atmospheric read. I'll talk more about it again at the end of the week during my recap of the month. But yeah, another book that I hauled in. It's a really quick one. It's like 120 pages. All the Horses of Iceland. I'm glad I actually said it right this time, because on the last month's video when I was talking about it, I called it All the Horses of Ireland. And no offense to all the Irish horses out there, I'm sure you're lovely. Let's move on to the next book. Another book that I picked up, and this is an audio book, and that was Awaken Online number 7, called Timeless. This is LitRPG. It's by Travis Bagwell, and lots of people have been asking me, Brian, where do I start with LitRPG? I've got other videos for it. There's a LitRPG starter guide. There's a top 10, LitRPG series to try. If you've already done Dungeon Crawler Carl, or if you've already done He Who Fights with Monsters and you're trying to branch out a little bit, I've already done videos for them. I'll throw a card up here as well. But Awaken Online, I have done both sight reading and via Audible. Just for scheduling purposes this month, it was easier for me to do it on Audible, and I'm glad that I did, and I owe a sincere apology. I'm sure he's not watching this, but the narrator of the Awaken Online books, I've been a little bit tough on in terms of his voice variations, because as the cast of this series got bigger, I found that his voice wasn't keeping up with, kind of differentiation between characters. I have to say the narrator, David Stifel, or Stifel, I'm not sure. Whichever one, I know his first name's David. He really, really came into himself for this Awaken Online Timeless book. I'm not quite done with it, but I will by the time we do the recap. That's another book that I hauled for the month of July. So let's talk about some physical books that were sent in by you guys, our amazing BellTube community. And in this case, it was one person who sent in all of the gift books for the month of July. I can't even thank her enough. She sent me The Grace of Kings by Ken Liu. And if you're wondering who she is, once again, I'm talking about Evie from She Was Only Evie, sent me book 1 of the Dandelion Dynasty. So this might be a series that I should, contemplate getting into as the TBR allows. She also sent me The Wall of Storms by Ken Liu. This is book 2 of the Dandelion series, or the Dandelion Dynasty. Do you see where I'm going with this, you guys? I'm not done. Neither was Evie. She sent in The Veiled Throne, which is book 3 of the Dandelion Dynasty. And not that she was only going to send me 3 out of 4 books, right? She sent Speaking Bones, which is the book 4 of Dandelion Dynasty. It's the final book. Evie, you are super cool to have sent me the entire Dandelion Dynasty. We've talked about it online and we've talked about it on Discord. I don't know when I'm getting to the Dandelion Dynasty. I've tried to make a commitment to you guys not to have a million series up in the air at the same time, because it gets a little bit confusing, I know, as a BookTube viewer, to follow where, some of my favorite booktubers are in their journeys throughout these different series. And I really don't want to have like 30 or 40 more series going on. But I got to say, Evie's given me a compelling reason to get this started. So I'm not sure when. Hopefully sometime in 2025. Maybe we can sneak in The Grace of Kings at the end of this year. But if you know me at all, you know that I like to just get right through series. That's just how I operate. It's how I read. And with the Dandelion Dynasty, along with the other book that Evie recommended, All the Horses of Iceland, got that right this time, very happy. The one for the road today is about being open-minded, and not just kind of in life, but also in our reading habits as well. There is no way under the sun I would have, reached for a Sarah Tolmie book for All the Horses of Iceland. Yet I'm glad I did, and I'll explain why in the recap. The Dandelion Dynasty, another one. There's just so many series that I haven't got to yet. It wouldn't have been something that I would have just grabbed off the shelf. And this is, of course, traditionally published. They're in all the bookstores. I've seen them everywhere that I go. But again, my mind was a little bit closed to the fact that, oh my gosh, I don't want to start a whole brand new big series all over again. And for the one for the road, I just want to talk a little bit about being open-minded. Some of the best books that I have read, specifically atmospheric books like All the Horses of Iceland, have been in books that I just in general wouldn't have gravitated to if my mind was really set on this is what I like and this is what I don't like. The same kind of goes for something like Piranesi or Gene Wolfe's Book of the New Sun. If I were to pigeonhole them into categories of I only like this or I don't like this because of this, that, and the other, without ever experiencing them, I think I would be doing myself a disservice. And I encourage everybody who happens to be watching this, if there's an author that you haven't read yet, but you feel like in some way you're not going to kind of jibe with, give that author a try, because you don't know. You may have heard a rumor, you may have just, read a blurb and it didn't seem like it was something for you. At the end of the day, it could end up to be one of your favorite authors. You have no idea. I don't have any idea. I could walk away from this Dandelion Dynasty as my all-time greatest series. I know there's people on BookTube that I follow that speak so highly of the Dandelion Dynasty. Patrick over at Petrick Leo, Pete over at Ponderings of Pete. I'll link all these guys in the description. They're hugely positive on this series. And again, I don't want to prejudge anything. At the same time, I don't want to prejudge anything not to get started. I hope that makes a little bit of sense for you. I want to know, what books did you pick up in the month of July? And I'm not even talking about like a big haul, right? Because before I started this channel, I never hauled anything. I basically decided that I want to read a book. I'd get the book, I'd read it, rinse and repeat. There was no such thing for me as a big book haul. So let me know in the comments, did you grab a book this month? Did you grab a few books this month? Did you check out a couple of books from the library? Because that counts too. Physically owning books or owning digital copies or whatever, that has nothing to do with a book haul. If you check something out at a library, that counts in my world for sure. That's what I've got for you today for the book haul. I know it's a little bit of a shorter one, but I hope everybody can kind of take with them today this sense of open-mindedness when it comes to your reading. I think you're going to find some value there. That's really what this whole channel is all about, as far as I'm concerned, is providing you guys as the viewer something valuable enough that you clicked on and said, you know what? I'm glad I clicked on this. Maybe this particular video may or may not have been for me, but I think this guy might be onto something and I want to watch more. Again, we'll talk to you guys soon. Stay positive, and here's your fortune.